She wasn't just any girl.
Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I have a new doll makeover that I am doing. We are doing a Katherine Pierce doll. I don't know about you guys, but when I was in high school and the Vampire Diaries was coming out, I was like hate watching it because that was around the time that Twilight was also finishing, and I was just like, oh, it's gonna be really stupid. And I mean, it was stupid, but I still liked it. And Katherine was one of my favorite characters. They really did her wrong, and yeah, I don't like the Vampire Diaries anymore, but I still like the character. I apologize in advance for the sound of my voice. I've been sick for the past couple days, and I've just been really tired, and this is just what I'm going to sound like if I don't do the voiceover today. It was gonna delay this video by like another week, so this is my voice, and I'm sorry. So the doll that I decided to use to make my Katherine Pierce doll, I think is from Ever After High. I don't know what character she is, but I think it's probably like an amalgamation of like Little Red Riding Hood or something like that. I figured this doll would probably work. I did end up having to do a reroot after all. I didn't really want to, but her hair from the factory hair was really gross feeling, so I ended up having to do a reroot. And I think her skin tone is like a little bit too dark for what Katherine Pierce was like in 1864, because they did more pale skin tones. But the actress who portrays Elena and Katherine has a really more olive like skin tone, so I figured her skin tone would still kind of work for this doll. So right here I am doing the reroot. In retrospect, I probably should have painted the entirety of the scalp to be the darker color. I ended up having to go in afterwards to repaint it because I wanted to give this doll a particular hairline, because Katherine has a specific hairline. I just should have painted the scalp, but that's okay. This is me, slowly and very steadily going into madness.
She likes the red sauce, or other places because she likes the food.
So if you watched any of my other doll makeovers, I didn't really feel the need to narrate what I was doing. However, this is the first time that I am curling the hair. So I've been using a very thick bamboo skewer and my very small 1-inch flat iron that I actually got at a yard sale for $1, I think. These tiny flat irons you could probably find pretty cheap at like Walmart or something like that. I can't imagine them being more than like $20. And you definitely want to use a smaller one. You probably have less of a chance of burning yourself. And obviously, because you are using a flat iron, just be careful of touching the hair afterwards. I'm still using the same hair that I used before for my Sailor Moon doll reroot, which actually has a lot of views on it right now, so thank you. That's weird, scary. Anyways, I'm still using the same hair. I don't really like this hair, but I bought this hair at the same time when I bought the blonde one, and it's just, I feel like it's not very first time user friendly. You're going to have to put the heat on for a pretty long time for the hair to maintain the texture. So I'm just showing you that it actually takes a really long time to curl the hair. I did end up doing her hair in kind of like a half up, half down look, except I did 2 ponytails instead of just one. It was just for my own sanity and to maintain the hair a little bit better. I did put in some fabric fusion, and then I left the head for a couple days actually. If you made it this far into the video, I just want to preface this by saying I actually really don't like how she came out. I made tons of mistakes on her and just a couple things that I just wish I did differently. Because of this, I will not be selling her. I will be keeping her in my private collection just because I don't feel comfortable selling her in the condition that she is. I feel like she still looks really, really good. It's just that she's not, I don't think she's good enough to sell. My Harley Quinn doll did sell though, so she has a new home. I'm sad she's not with me with my little collection, but she has a new home, so I'm happy about that. So this Katherine Pierce doll actually did take a fair amount of time. It took a pretty long time, and I was working on a whole bunch of different other projects at the same time, so there are going to be a couple cuts where it's like clear that it's like a completely different day. But I am starting the dress now, and I am making a tulle underskirt, which I'm going to show how I did it wrong, and then it will be right after. Yeah, don't do knots like how I was doing. Do it this way, please? Okay, thanks. Sorry, being sick really raises up my sass and salt meter. Fun fact, the fabric that I'm using for this doll is actually the exact same fabric that I stole from this really old shitty Arwen dress that I made from when I was in high school. I totally made this dress and cosplayed as Arwen for Halloween one year, and it was pretty cringe because the outfit ended up being pretty bad. I think one of the main problems was that I didn't really plan out the dress very well. I don't really recommend how I'm doing it here just because I ended up having to trim a lot of the pieces, and it's just a lot of the pieces I had to hand sew, and it just, if I could, I would probably redo the entire dress. Regardless, I still like how the dress ended up looking like. There were just a whole bunch of technical errors that I really didn't like, and it's also the fact that the dress is also sewn to her now, and I wanted it to be removable, but we're just going to ignore that and keep going on with this video. Moving on to the face up, one of the things that I wanted to mention was that I noticed a couple other people in their face up videos were not recommending 100% acetone. I can't really understand the reason why, particularly because if you don't use 100% acetone, you're going to be spending a lot of time trying to get the factory paint off. I guess the only reason why people would suggest not to use 100% acetone is if the vinyl of the doll actually was also painted as well. You do have the potential of removing that as well. But if you're just using like regular like Monster High dolls and I guess the Ever After Eye dolls, you probably wouldn't have any problems, and I would recommend 100% acetone just because it's cleaner and it gets the factory paint off faster. Here's the other thing that I kind of ended up not really liking that much. It was a little bit hard to kind of transfer what Nina Dobrev looks like as Katherine Pierce into a doll form. She has very narrow eyes, and also her eyebrows are like really close to her eyes. She has a relatively kind of large forehead, and I tried to offset it with making the hairline a little bit lower. And the doll also had a kind of round face, whereas Nina Dobrev definitely has more of like a heart-shaped face. So I guess it was just difficult to transcribe what she looks like in real life to doll form. But I still kind of like how she turned out. Here I am just bringing her hairline a little bit lower. You'll also notice that I'm actually just kind of sporadically putting the like dark burnt umber color along her hair, just because her hair is kind of too light, I guess. It's a little bit on the brown reddy side, and I didn't notice that initially when I was purchasing the hair, so I'm just kind of darkening it near the root. So if you do decide on purchasing this hair, it is from the Hair Doll Planet, something like that, and I think the color is called Hathaway. It reads as like a dark brown with like no red on the website, but it definitely has red in it, and I was kind of disappointed about that. But if you're not too picky, then I wouldn't worry about it. The colors in her face were actually kind of easy to work with. They're all really natural looking colors. This is, I think, the first time that I really did a more natural looking face up, meaning it's just like brown eyes, brown shadow, neutral lip. So it was kind of easy, but because I was having trouble with the face issues, it still ended up being kind of difficult. I had a really hard time with her eyebrows. I think I also had a similar problem when I was doing the Harley Quinn doll. I think it's just because I don't naturally have really arched brows like on myself. I also just prefer more straight across, kind of like the Korean styled eyebrows. I find that eyebrows like these can usually end up making anybody look a little bit angry, but Nina Dobrev does have very arched eyebrows, but she also has weird eyebrows throughout the show. You can tell that they had different makeup artists do her eyebrows for each season. Like, I remember in the second season, they were like thick as fuck. And then like they got really, really thin in like the fourth season. And then they were really inconsistent. And then I think the last season, they were just like weird and boxy. But because this particular doll is based on the 1864 Katherine Pierce scenes. In those scenes, her eyebrows are very thin and arched, so I'm just gonna do that. That was a weird rant about her eyebrows. At this point in the face paint, I think I realized that she looked too young and innocent, so I think I stopped here and then I came back on another day. There's nothing wrong with kind of stopping what you're doing and moving on to something else. Sometimes you need to come back with projects with fresh eyes, and that's what I needed to do with this. So ultimately her face actually didn't end up looking like this. One of the new things I actually discovered was that you can actually use rubbing alcohol or isopropyl alcohol or whichever you have, and you can use it to remove chalk and paint on your doll faces. That's what I noticed, and it worked for me. As long as you use Q-tips and you're careful, it can be really good for cleaning up any mistakes. You might have noticed earlier that this doll actually doesn't have normal hands. She actually has gloves, which I did take off earlier and I'm going to be repainting. I'm also going to be repainting these boots that I found. I don't know where they're from, I just got them from a thrift store, so if anybody really wants to know, you can maybe try and look up where these shoes are from. I think in this particular scene where she's wearing this green dress, she's actually not wearing gloves, but this doll came with gloves and I didn't have the time to find replacement hands, so I just went with that, and I painted them a cream color. For some reason, I really liked repainting these boots. I don't know why, I think they came out really good. I guess I kind of tried to veer this towards like Victorian styled boots. You can look it up yourselves if you want to. I don't think it's accurate to the timeline. However, I couldn't really find any scenes where I could see her shoes, so I ended up going with this. I didn't want to make them cream and I didn't want to make them black either, so I just ended up going with brown. I really like how these came out. They have like cute little gold detailing and black laces, and I also darkened up the sole of the shoe as well. And if you're wondering, I use mostly burnt umber and burnt sienna. I always wondered about the lore as to why she had a cameo necklace as her daylight necklace and why it changed to that other stone. They never really explained it in the show, I think. So I am using a button. This is actually a button that I have taken apart, and I'm going to use the cameo part as the necklace, and this other gold part I'm going to use as the hairpiece. And the earrings are actually just ball head pins that I painted the ends gold, and then I also had a chandelier earring that I broke apart, and I took the little crystal, like the teardrop crystals off of it, and I threaded that through, and I painted them, and this is what I used for her jewelry basically. And moving back onto the dress now. I totally forgot about the dress. Now, I also don't show myself sewing the dress just because the sewing machine that I use is actually located in the basement, and it is a dark, dank, very dingy basement, so I didn't want to be filming down there. It would be too dark anyways, so just imagine me sewing. If someone would like to educate me on how these dresses work, please do so. Actually don't, I'll do my own research, it's fine. Besides, I don't really know how accurate the Vampire Diaries was with their historical clothing, so I wouldn't worry about it. I'm just copying what I see in the pictures. Now, initially when I was making the bodice, I wanted it to actually be a corset-styled bodice so that I had the potential to take it on and off. I ended up having to completely not do that just because it was actually a little bit outside of my skill set. I definitely will be trying to make a corset later on just because I like the look of like lingerie on dolls. I just find them very, I don't know, I guess alluring and pretty and just more elegant. So I definitely will be trying to make a corset later on. I just ended up not doing it for this one. And I don't think having an open corset was actually screen accurate for this, so just ignore everything that I'm saying right now. So while I was rambling, I finished up the skirt, the bodice, and I made tiny little sleeves, and I also did the off-the-shoulder lace, which I actually didn't sew her into because I didn't want her to lose the mobility in her arms. So they're actually only attached on the bodice and not on the sleeve parts. And I'm just showing off her boots again, and I did seal them before putting them on her feet. And again, I don't know if they wore tights. I feel like they would have worn tights or like nylons or something like that. I don't have any, so just ignore that. Thanks. And I'm just putting the glove and the, I guess, like lace part of the glove back on. For her necklace, I actually also added 2 small pearls, and then I attached it around her neck. For her earrings, you definitely could trim down the pin. I just didn't because I didn't want the earrings to fall out, so I just kept them long. For her hair clip, it was basically just the gold frame. I put polymer clay in the indentation of it, baked it, painted it blue, and then I added rhinestones to it, and then I also added a wire U shape so that I could pin it into her hair. I just pinned it to her hair, and then I was done. So this doll actually probably took me longer than the Sailor Moon doll. I feel like, I'm not sure, I might have also kind of unintentionally took longer breaks than I did with the Sailor Moon doll. Despite everything, I still really like her. I still like how she came out. There were just a couple technical errors that I didn't like, but she still photographs really well, and she still looks pretty good. I have a couple more videos coming up, and you can subscribe only if you want to. You can check me out on my Instagram. I'm very frequent on there. But anyways, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye bye!